The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
Hey, what's up, world? I think, just maybe it might be possible that I'm back up on the horse. And that means we're gonna get like at least one or two videos of some extremely harmful content every week again. Now, this is hopefully, even if I don't fall off the horse again, I am expected to kind of get a workload dumped on me at work. That's what happens, and it's cool. I like it when people dump on me, and of course, I meant to say I like it when people dump a load of work on me. Man, that doesn't sound any better. This doesn't sound good at all. Anyway, let's get right into this. Why am I talking about dumping? Why am I talking about work when there's harmful content to report on?
The fuck's your problem?
So I know you're all probably wondering, like, why are we looking at a blank screen here? What's going on? Well, it's not blank. You got all this bullshit over here, and this bullshit up here, and this bullshit down here. But why are we looking at a mostly white screen here? Is it because of white supremacy? Am I trying to signal some covert thing to you all? No, of course not. I'm not a white supremacist. Those people are losers. Anyway, I'm down here because I wanted to hold the title of this article off for you all. And that is, Man 44 learns he's been living with half a brain after common symptoms millions suffer. Now, I love this. I gotta start this video off with this article because I think that this is the answer to many of our problems. That's what it is. And probably the problem out there, and I've asked myself, like, man, does this person have half a fucking brain? I think this is it. It's like at least 75% of the people out there are probably walking around with half a fucking brain. And I'm not the only person who thinks this. If we go down to the comment section, I'll read a little bit of the article in a second, but let's check out the comment section. Some of the people here agree with me. Judging from many of the comments written here, I'd say 75% of the writers have half a brain. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, this isn't RFK? That's a great comment I didn't see until right now. So anyway, let's look at this article. That's right, this guy has lived with half a brain for his entire life, right? Let's check this out. So it's like some disease, or it's some like a disability where there's like some drainage thing in the brain that like drains the fluid that's in the brain or whatever. It's like part of our biological mechanisms. And essentially, this guy didn't have that. So his brain, it was like filled with fluid, or his the brain area, his cranium filled with fluid, and it basically like pushed his brain. It like dislodged part, well, not dislodged, but it pushed his brain up against the wall of his skull. Now, this caused him to have a slightly larger skull, but it also caused him to literally have half a brain. Even after they drained the fluid, the dude only had half a brain. Now, what's really interesting is, in the U.S., hydrocephalus, or water on the brain, affects 1 out of every 770 babies, making it as common as Down syndrome and more common than spina bifida or brain tumors. I think this number is like fucking, maybe it's like 10 out of 11 babies. At least that's the feel that I get from interacting with the general population. But this is a really interesting story. Something that really got me here was the following. In a bid to see how his condition had affected his mental ability, the doctors carried out a series of psychological tests on the male patient. They were further surprised to find that he was still able to function sufficiently with an IQ of 75. I'm pretty confident most of the people out there have like an IQ around like 70, 75, basically room temperature IQ for most people, at the lower end of the normal range. Well, this is the lower end of the normal range? Man, that's terrible. When I was in like 8th grade, I did a classic IQ test, and my IQ was 149. And I wasn't even trying all that hard. And I'm pretty confident today I'm much smarter, much sharper than I was in 8th grade. And I know people are like, oh man, IQ is like stable. It's like static. It doesn't really change. I don't buy that, man. I'm sorry. The brain continues to develop until our later 20s. And I'm pretty confident there's some pattern recognition that goes along with that further developing brain. But I could be wrong. But whatever. just doing a little bragging here, guys. 149 IQ. Please, who wants to touch me? I said, who wants to fucking touch me? Doing a little Eric Cartman, if you guys didn't get that one. So the man also had built a successful life for himself with a wife, 2 children, and a job as a civil servant. I'm confident, like, every civil servant has half a fucking brain. That's the perfect job for this scumbag. But anyway, absolutely brilliant article here. We're going to be using it as a foundation for our other articles and for our understanding why people just aren't seeing what is very obvious, okay? But that's fine if they're not seeing it. That's why I make these videos, to sort of point it out, for the simple-minded of us. All right, let's get right into our second article. Number 2, article numero dos. Prosecutor Daniel Sassoon resigns. This "in" is a typo, and this is a little digression here. I've noticed a shit ton of typos in article titles, in articles. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's the half a brain thing going on. But Jesus Lord, why are there so many typos? Is this AI just screwing up, or is this just humans screwing up? So anyway, this guy, he resigns after being ordered by Trump admin, or the Trump administration, to drop Eric Adams' case. How is this not like front page news for a week? This guy, Eric Adams, this scumbag mayor of New York City, this one of the most corrupt politicians I've ever had the experience to live under, is going to get away scot-free. He's totally guilty. And Trump administration, basically, this corrupt piece of shit right here, POS, I'm sorry. Let's be a little PC here. This corrupt POS right here just straight up was like, no, stop investigating him. All right, drop that investigation, drop that case, even though he's clearly fucking guilty. All right, so this Republican Danielle Sassoon sent an email. Oh, and she's a Republican. To all staff, announcing her resignation as interim U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York on Thursday. Okay, so this is not like some fucking like bipartisan nonsense of like, oh, some Democrat is out there and they just don't like Trump, so they're resigning. No, this is a Republican who sees the writing on the wall, who sees the blatant and obvious corruption, and she's like, nah, fuck that. I'm not gonna be any part of this. You're ordering me to drop this case. I'm not gonna drop this case. So I'm just gonna resign. She has some integrity. She has some standards. She has a code. And this is actually something really interesting. I saw a YouTuber that I've been following since like before I was making YouTube videos. His name is Goodfellas, and I believe he's in Ireland or Scotland. And essentially, like, the cops visited him because of a post that he posted on Twitter, calling the police over there cowards, and also saying something about, like, Muslims. Basically, this old lady, she was arrested for doing a silent prayer at some vigil or something like that. A silent prayer. She's not talking. She's not bothering anybody. She's just over there standing in silence and praying in her head, and the cops arrested her. So this guy, Goodfellas, you guys should check him out. It's I believe it's spelt like 6 for the good, for the G in the Goodfellas. I'm not even sure, but it's like a weird way of spelling it. So he saw this, so he posted on Twitter. He was like, I bet you if this lady was a Muslim, if instead of her being a Christian, I bet you if she was a Muslim, the cops wouldn't have done anything. And then he called them like cowards and a couple things. And then the cops visited him because it's, free speech over there. You can't have that free speech, thought criminal over here. So he made a video talking about how like they have no integrity, no code, none of that stuff. And that's exactly what we're finding here. And I'm actually going to end this video with a quote from Jose Ortega y Gasset, very much in line with all of that stuff. But anyway, yeah, this guy, Donald Trump, this total POS, that everyone's like, oh my God, he's so great, man, because he's saying that he's doing all these things, oh my God. But anyway, we're going to get into some of that, all right? We'll be commenting on this. Look at this guy, he's getting laser hair removal. This guy, I can say so much about Eric Adams. Let's see what some of the comments say, though. Show me the money. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin detailed the disturbing plan, saying that the days of irresponsible shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. Oh, great, asshole. This has nothing to fucking do with this article that we're reading. throwing gold bars off the Titanic. I don't see a tantrum here. There is a clear political aspect to this. For those upset about this, selective judicial prosecution is not a new thing. Oh, so because it's not a new thing, we shouldn't be upset. Oh, guys, it's fine. This sort of corruption, it's been long standing, so don't get upset, all right? I have made respect for her standing up for her principles. Oh, I'm sorry. I have mad respect for her for standing up for her principle. The generals that oversaw the Afghanistan withdrawal could learn a lesson from her. All right. Cool. Yes, I get your point and hers. Just that so many New York City Democrat mayors have been blatantly corrupt and never touched. Adams was being picked out for political reasons. Oh my God, no, bro, this guy, you got to be kidding me. No. Okay, you're talking about, okay, mayors being blatantly corrupt. No, this guy took blatant corruption to like the next level. See, he had this mentality that this author of this comment has, where it's like, oh yeah, those mayors were blatantly corrupt. He had this mentality, so he was like, oh, okay, whatever. If they were blatantly corrupt, I'm gonna take blatant corruption to the next fucking level. I'm gonna say, hey, hold my beer while I show you what corruption is really like. Scumbags. Okay, this guy Trump, he's got no integrity. He's a corrupt pile of trash, and we're gonna be going more into that in a second. Let's look at our next article. Let's not get hung up too much on that article because we got lots of corruption to cover. So, Trump threatens all hell if Hamas didn't free all its hostages. What happened? Okay, so this is February 21st, right? So what happened was Hamas was kind of saying, hey, you know, we're not gonna release the hostages. Actually, let's just look at the article, right? How did Israel violate the ceasefire in Gaza? As Hamas says it will delay the release of captives until violations cease, here's a look at documented breaches. Okay, let's look at the date on this, okay? This was, it's only going to say, February 12th. Okay, so what had happened was Israel and Gaza, and this is something that, like, very few actually reported on. You know, everyone's talking about, oh, yeah, look at Trump, man. He's got so much integrity and compassion, you know? So he's over here saying, oh, yeah, I'm doing the good thing. You got to free all the hostages, or all hell, or you're gonna pay all hell if you don't free these hostages. But wait a second, there's context to this, and the reason why they started to backpedal on releasing the hostages, like the ceasefire deal agreed to, was because Israel was violating the shit out of it. Okay, let's see this. There was this article over here in Newsweek. I think there was 270 ceasefire violations on the part of Israel. This is February 11th. When Hamas is like, holy shit, man, we agreed to a ceasefire, and look at you guys. You're still going fucking ham on us. You're still fucking pushing that greater Israel project on all of Palestine, or at least in this part, Gaza Strip, but we're going to be looking at the West Bank in a second. So this is what's going on, all right? So this is why Hamas started to backpedal. But Trump, he's like, oh no, I don't care if Israel's violating the ceasefire agreement, because Israel could, of course, do no wrong, absolutely zero wrong. Why? Oh, because a few generations ago, there was this thing that happened in Germany and Poland. Oh, okay, so now they're completely fine. They have absolutely no guilt, right? Okay, so piece of shit. Okay, Trump, of course, not surprising. So now moving on. Let's not spend too much time on that. I just want to give some context to this story, what was really going on here, who was really at fault, even though both sides are playing for the same evil, right? They're all soulless demons. So anyway, check this out. This is our next article. Israel raids, assaults continue across occupied West Bank. Some of the attackers were by Israeli settlers backed by soldiers. Okay, now once again, I went over this in the previous video. For those who don't know the geography going on in this area, is it geography? Yeah, it's not geology, it's geography. Okay, so I could be wrong on that though. Something's telling me I'm probably fucking wrong there. So anyway, for those who don't know the area, Gaza and Hamas have nothing to do with the West Bank. All right, I'm not going to pull up a whole other map, but let's just use something here. Let's pretend that it's a map. All right, let's say this soldier's Israel, even though Israel's much bigger than this. Let's say this whole area over here is like Israel. This is all Israel. Let's say Gaza Strip is like this little green area over here where these bushes are, okay? This would be the Gaza Strip. It would be connected to Egypt like over here. And then the West Bank is all the way over here, not even connected to Gaza, because the Gaza Strip would be here, then it would be like all Israel, then the West Bank over here, which is also governed by a completely different group, not even Hamas. I believe they're governed by the Palestinian Authority, the PA. Okay, but that doesn't stop Israel from continuing their raids and assaults all across the occupied West Bank. And it's not just like Israel soldiers, okay? They're going there with settlers. Okay, it's your average Israeli citizen just getting ready to steal somebody's home. So they're going there with settlers. I've seen videos, I've seen reports of people in the West Bank saying that, like next thing they knew, there was gunfire coming through their windows. They were being shot at, and then they were being forced out their house, and then people were taking over their houses, just basically stealing their houses with force. This is insane terrorism right here. Could you imagine some shit like this going on in the United States? Like, let's just say there was a country inside the middle of the United States, and it just started to go into neighboring states and fucking stealing people's homes. How do you think that would be reported in the United States? They would be reported as terrorists, right? They would be reported as a violent terrorist cult. That's actually what they would be reported. They'd be like, oh, this violent racist, and they're also fucking racist, okay? So they'd be like, yeah, this incredibly racist and supremacist, because they are supremacists. After all, they believe they're God's chosen fucking people. How much more supremacist can you get than that? So if this was happening in the United States, they would report it as like a violent supremacist cult that's going around stealing people's homes. I mean, how many fucking different crimes is that? Insanity, right? Nobody's talking about it, though, in Western media. I can only really find this shit on Al Jazeera. Everybody in the West, they're silent. They're too busy repeating the same shit about Trump to fucking put Trump on this pedestal and create this cult of personality of Trump. And that's what they do. They use domestic fucking actions or domestic activities to distract from foreign activities. Then they use, when the time is right, they'll use foreign activities to distract from domestic things. That's just how the news fucking works. For those of you who haven't been able to pick up on that pattern, for those of you who have half a fucking brain and just like, oh, what's actually going on here? I don't know, man. Let me just go and disappear into my own world with a 75 IQ. Let's move on. While we're on the topic of Palestine and Israel, 4 released Palestinians in critical condition hospitalized. Released Palestinians report severe malnutrition and physical abuse in Israeli prisons. Now, I could actually pause. 1 second, let me pause this. All right, let's get back to this. So, just a couple hours ago, I saw this fucking article. Israeli hostage kisses Hamas captors as he's freed before revealing he wants... what does he want? I didn't actually see this. Before revealing he wants a hamburger. Okay, so very interesting. These people, they're released. They're not abused or anything like that. But when Israel releases hostages, they are in fucking critical condition and need to be hospitalized. Okay, this is insane. Anybody reporting on this? Nah. Nobody's reporting on this shit, except for, of course, Al Jazeera here. So anyway, let's move on. This is also something that, like, you got crickets. I think I saw it in some Western media outlets for, like, maybe 6 hours. And then it was taken down, and then they started to post shit about Dodge and fucking all this other bullshit going on, all this other circus stuff. So drone strikes Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine. Russia says not to blame. Now, Al Jazeera, they're doing the right thing here because every other Western media outlet, they didn't say Russia's point at all. They were just like, Zelensky claims Russia did it. Every single fucking Western media outlet was like, oh, yes, Zelensky claims Russia drone strike the Chernobyl protective shell. Okay, fortunately, this didn't cause a bunch of radiation to leak out. I actually would be curious if there is still radiation capable of leaking out of this. I'm sure somebody will say, oh, no, radiation will be coming out of there for hundreds of years or whatever, but whatever. Fortunately, no leak was detected. The radiation levels remain normal at Chernobyl, IAEA says, as world leaders gather in Munich to discuss Russia-Ukraine war. And it's interesting, something that I noticed, and I couldn't help but pick this up, they're actually referring to it as a war. As of late, they've been referring to the Special Military Operation, the SMO, as the Russia-Ukraine war. I don't know exactly when this started. It could have started maybe a little while ago and I just didn't pick up on it. But now it's like really prevalent. Now they're only calling it a war. Very interesting thing. Of course, we know who is actually responsible for this, right? I mean, we know it's Ukraine. The same fucking culprits that were bombing the Zaporizhia and shelling the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine when Russia had control over it. And then was like, no, Russia's shelling their own nuclear power plant that they're occupying. Yeah, they're the ones who are shelling it. I mean, it's fucking insanity what this dude Zelensky has been able to get away with. And of course, I know they're all playing for the same team, but for the sake of this conversation, for the sake of this complaint, for the sake of this moment of bitching and whining on my part, I just want to do a little bitching and whining directed at Zelensky. Anyway, Donald Trump demands Reuters return $9 million payment from the Pentagon for social deception study. Now, this is fucking brilliant, right? So first of all, it's ridiculous that Donald Trump is like demanding for them to return $9 million. It's like, bro, this study ended like almost 3 years ago now. But what's really interesting is when the money for this study was approved. And guess when it was approved? Guess who signed off on it? This fucking cocksucker right here, right? Donald Trump has demanded that his chief cost cutter, Elon Musk, recover millions the federal government paid to Reuters for a mysterious social engineering defense project. Now, what's also really fucking interesting about this social deception study, right? Look at when it began in September 2018, when President Trump was in office, and concluded in November 2022. So guess who signed off on this shit? This fucking moron. I know I said it already, but this is something that amazes me. You know, you see how they pass the budgets. They have these fucking hundreds of pages budgets, right? These budgets are normally a couple hundred pages long. None of these senators, none of these Congress members are actually fucking reading it. Their handlers just tell them, like, hey, approve that shit, all right? Approve that shit or else. Okay, they're basically like being held hostage. If you don't approve that shit, you'll be held responsible for the economic like downturn that will happen if you don't approve that shit, right? So they just fucking sign on it with their half of fucking brains. I'm sure they have even less than half of fucking brain, some of these Congress members and these senators and shit. So they just sign off on that shit, and then it makes it to this dickhead's desk. And what do these fucking presidents do? Do they fucking read it? Nah, they don't fucking read it. They just fucking sign off on that shit. And now this guy's like, oh my God, why is there so much waste, fraud, and abuse in the U.S. government, in the federal government? Well, I don't know, dickhead. Who could be to fucking blame for this? Who's the one who signed off on it? I didn't fucking sign off on it. That's right. You fucking signed off on it, dummy. Fucking half a brain. I know I'm cursing a lot. Getting a little too into it. So let me just dial it back a little bit. Dial it back just a little bit, right? So yeah, this happened. Of course, nobody's talking about this, right? And this is interesting because how many other of these programs that they're complaining about did Trump sign off on in his first term? I know people will be like, oh, well, his first term, man, he was trying to play ball with them. And now, his second term, he was almost assassinated, man. And now he's had, like, this realization that he can't play ball with them. And now he's got to play, like, hardball with them. No, you fucking idiot. This guy is top-level club material. Okay? I showed it in my previous videos. This guy is direct descendant from Charles the Great, the founder of the Holy Roman Empire. He's got royalty on both sides of his family. He is top level club. So anyway, interesting stuff. Let's just fucking move on. I know I'm just digressing. Let's move on to our next article. Trump's multi-billion-dollar rare earth deal with Zelensky close after envoys wrap Ukraine talks. Now this is where things will get interesting. And this is something that I'm surprised I haven't heard anybody talk about. So I'm going to spend some time talking about this. I'm going to go into some great detail on this shit right here. So people are like, oh yeah, this is great because now Trump is going to get like a return on our investment, on our handouts to Ukraine. That's how a lot of people are seeing this. No, buddy. This is awful. This is terrible. This is Trump. What this is actually doing is actually tying the United States to Ukraine at an economic level, which will then be the excuse for the United States to get involved in a military level. Okay, a lot of people are looking at this shit now, and this is what I think is happening. This is my prediction. I hope it doesn't come true. I'm not saying that it's definitively going to come true, but this is what I'm seeing from my slightly higher IQ perspective than somebody with a 75 IQ, right? This is what I think is being set up. So you have all this stuff. Right now, it looks like Trump is completely against Zelensky. It looks like he's totally working with Putin. Some people might even call him a Putin shill and stuff, right? But if this shit gets approved, it'll flip real quick. And you'll see things heat up like you wouldn't have imagined. So this is definitely going to lead to some shit, and I think that this is where it's all going to be leading to this conflict. It's going to get hot, or at least that's what I think. This is my speculation. Take it with a grain of salt. Remember, never have fear. Stay healthy. Always be ready for when the shit goes down. Anyway, let's move on. Vaccine victims left disabled after taking COVID jab react to bombshell Yale study that found shots cause extreme body changes. So you got all these, and what's really interesting about this article is the way that the doctors treated these patients. The doctors were like, oh, it's long COVID. Something that doesn't even fucking exist. She was branded an anti-vaxxer for suggesting it could have been the vaccines. These people are sick, man. These doctors are medical field bunch of fucking psychopaths. I'm pretty confident my surgeon fucked up my last surgery because he didn't like the fact that I wasn't vaccinated. He made a huge deal out of that. Oh, you're not vaccinated? Why aren't you vaccinated? Oh, well, it's against my religion. Oh, well, I saw a lot of people die from COVID. No, you saw a lot of people die from fucking medical mismanagement and being left on ventilators for fucking weeks on end. If you haven't seen my video, Serial Ventilator Killers, go check that shit out. That's a great fucking video. Serial Ventilator Killers. If it's not on my YouTube page, I'll get it re-uploaded here, but it's most definitely on my Odyssey page. But anyway, let's look at this, right? So essentially, this Yale study, they found that the vaccines cause extreme body changes. I wonder why. Oh, no, don't worry. That mRNA technology, it's not interacting with your DNA or your RNA at all. No, definitely not. That's not happening at all. Oh, it's just causing extreme body changes at a biological level. Huh, I wonder what's causing that. Anyway, so now that I believe this thing is called post-vaccination injuries, PVI. That's what they're calling them now. PVI. Let's see if we find the acronym here. Whatever. Anyway, so we have this study. It came out. Of course, no word from Trump. I believe there was some word from not Fauci. Wow. From RFK Jr. I believe RFK Jr. was saying something like they're gonna pull the vaccines. I think I saw one article about that. They're gonna stop COVID vaccines, but as of today, they're still pushing the COVID vaccines. This article is still pushing the COVID vaccines. This article is actually claiming that I think 300 people in America are still dying every week from COVID. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, we got the fucking vaccines. Weren't the vaccines supposed to end this? So yeah, that's still happening. Where's it at? I felt unsafe, she said. Where's it at? Oh yeah, this is the lady with the bleeding eye. I believe it's right down here. 2,000 per dose. Fuck it, whatever. But basically, this article's like, yeah, the CDC still recommends COVID vaccines. I believe a commenter still pointed out, no long-term testing has been completed. In fact, the degree of follow-up studies and research is a disgrace. All medications are experimental until they have undergone long-term studies. Yeah, exactly. So this is bullshit. Of course, this shit is still being pushed on Americans to this very day. It's still being encouraged by the CDC. All that nonsense. Let's move on to our next article. Study coronavirus was in the U.S. weeks earlier than previously known. So this is something that I've actually mentioned this. And how is this from December 1st? Oh, yeah, that would be like a year later, basically. So, yeah, this is something I've mentioned in other videos. I just want to bring it up again now since we're on the topic. And, their whole thing was like, oh, yeah, we got to lock down to, like, slow the spread. But, motherfuckers, this shit was already spreading. And I'm pretty confident. This study has only found evidence that it was like a couple weeks earlier, right? And they've only have this because they have some blood samples they were taken a couple weeks earlier that had evidence that they had this COVID, right? This novel coronavirus. I believe it was in the United States months fucking beforehand. I believe I actually caught it in June of 2019, and I think it actually killed one of my elderly clients in that same month, in like May, June of 2019. I had a client, she got this severe respiratory issue, this like type of pneumonia. It was obviously viral. It was horrible. But I'm pretty confident it was coronavirus. I'm fucking almost 100% sure I had COVID in like I said, June of 2019. I would love to have taken my blood at that point. I'm sure we would have found evidence that fucking COVID was already here in June of 2019. So it was all bullshit, people. I think we know this, right? A big money grab, a big government expansion move, a big fucking everything, right? So EPA head Lee Zeldin reveals no real oversight of shocking $20 billion that Biden admin funneled through Citibank. Tip of the iceberg. So this is really interesting. There's a $20 billion Biden administration green energy slush fund, which was collecting interest at a private bank and is being distributed without proper oversight. And this is exactly what these cocksuckers do. When they're in power, they put like a crazy amount of our money into these private banks, which then collect interest, which they then distribute out to themselves. And now they're just perpetually rich. I'm sure that a little bit gets sent to all of them. They all get a fucking corruption dividend. It's like, oh, you're corrupt? Don't worry. We're going to hook you up with this dividend from our secret bank accounts that are filled with taxpayer money, and we collect the interest on it. This is the corruption that's really going on. It's not just Joe Biden. They're all fucking doing this, all right? They're trying to point the finger like, oh, it's just started with Biden and Obama. Trump is innocent, of course. He's never done anything wrong. All right, some of New York City's this article just fucking cracks me up. And this is another thing that I see happening, right? So some of New York City's 500,000 stray cats could, we don't fucking know. There hasn't been any evidence. It's just a fucking could be infected with bird flu. Possibly, we got could, and we got possibly threatening humans. And who is this all from? Some fucking activist, some fucking piece of shit that could be thrown into a fucking wood chipper, and the world would then be a better place afterwards. It would not be a worse place, all right? Fucking most of these people lined up and were just thrown into a fucking wood chipper, we'd have a net positive. That's the only way that you get positives out of negatives, is when you're fucking throwing dickheads like that into wood chippers. So anyway, I don't even really need to fucking read any other part of this article. It's obvious bullshit. Even this cat is like, man, I've never heard so much bullshit in my life, and that's why I'd rather be a stray cat. I think this cat's got 2 different colored eyes over here. That's pretty fucking cool. Anyway, let's move on to our next article. Going along with fucking bird flu, right? I'm a farmer who was forced to kill 6.5 million hens. Here's the terrifying truth of America's egg shortage, and who's really to blame. America's food supply is under attack. It is long past time to fight back. All right, so I'm gonna ruin the surprise for you. Guess how this guy thinks we should fight back, and guess who he thinks is really to blame. He blames the federal government, and he believes that we have to fight back by mass vaccinating our chickens. So apparently they have a vaccine for this type of bird flu, but they're not fucking using it. Right? Let's check this out. Where is it? It will take months. Okay. Coupled with biosecurity protocols, the USDA policy of stamping out the avian flu has worked to control the spread of bird flu in the past, but with new strains of bird flu and the unprecedented infections of dairy cattle, we can no longer rely solely on biosecurity protocols, biosecurity to protect our flocks. So basically, they're like, this guy talks about how like he's got some birds. Let's look at how many died, right? Oh yeah, we first detected the virus the day before Easter when we lost 70 birds in one of our barns. By Easter Sunday, 700 were dead. Okay, this is the day before Easter. Okay, so then Easter Sunday, what is this like? What is the day before Easter? Can these fucking people use actual dates? Like, I don't know how many fucking days are between this. When the fuck is Easter versus Easter Sunday? Isn't fucking Easter always on a Sunday? So isn't the day before Easter? So shouldn't this be like a Saturday? I don't fucking know. Maybe I need half a brain to understand this, right? So the following day, the death toll had climbed to 10,000. By Tuesday, 2 other farms within 5 miles of each other were also hit. That was when the United States Department of Agriculture moved in. Now, what's really interesting is, how is this thing spreading? That's what I'd be curious about. How is this spreading from one farm to another? Are there like birds? Like, are these things not closed in? Are there other birds like flying in, fraternizing with these infected chickens, then taking off saying, "Bye, chickens. I'm gonna go fraternize with some other chickens a couple miles down." Like, how is this happening? I mean, it can't possibly be the chemtrails, right? I mean, the government most definitely wouldn't do that, right? I mean, they most definitely wouldn't use this fucking obvious program that's going on where they're spraying the skies. They definitely wouldn't use that obvious fucking program to then, spread viruses and disease around, right? No, that would, our government would never do that. And this is another point that I want to make. I'm going to make a little digression here. A point that I think about pretty frequently is that there is no confidence in this government. Very little confidence. I mean, people can come up with all kinds of crazy theories when shit happens. I think that's a very good fucking sign that it's time to hit the reset button. I mean, it's not going to get any better. I mean, people are going to get more and more paranoid about their government being involved in all this dark shit. The government is then going to respond by cracking down on this sort of speech and blaming the government because they're going to see it's going to get more and more extreme. As more and more extreme things happen and it could look like the government's involved, the people's reaction will then get more extreme. And then the government's reaction to their reaction will also get more extreme. And this will eventually lead into like a tyrannical moment where things will just fucking boil over and either we'll be totally fucking tyrannized or our country will completely fucking fall apart. It'll tear itself apart from the inside. Okay? So it's time to hit the fucking reset button. That's just maybe a good sign, right? So anyway, let's see. Within a week, we lost 6.5 million hens, which means 6 million fewer eggs per day were being produced and sold in the market. To a family farmer, after it is confirmed that avian flu has infected a farm, the USDA essentially takes over, and their policy is to stamp out the virus. So after they lost, 10,000 chickens, the USDA came in and fucking killed 6.5 million hens. Now, what I want to say about this is that it's fucking dumb. Let's actually read this comments, because the virus has been around since the 70s, right? The virus has been around since the 70s. My dad was a corporate veterinarian who dealt with this. It was terrible. Farmers lost whole houses of chickens, as the farmer in the article says. Mitigation protocols were developed, which brought it under control. Why has this blown up all of a sudden? This is a really good question. This shit has been around. This H5N1 bird flu virus has apparently been around since, I believe, like the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I believe I read an article. I must have asked Google or something like that. I forgot. But it did originate in China, I believe southern China, and it's been around since like the fucking 70s, like this comment said. Now, what I want to say about all of this is that it is so stupid to go into a place and just kill all the chickens. What would be smart would be to let the virus run its natural course instead of us trying to play God. Like, oh yeah, we're so God. We're gods, and we could just come in here and we could just solve all the natural problems in the world. No, what would make a lot more sense would be to let the fucking virus run its course, then find the chickens that have a natural immunity, or not even a natural immunity, but are naturally resistant to the virus, and then just breed those fucking chickens. This does not take a rocket scientist. Okay, I know that 90% of the population has half a fucking brain, but when I look at this, when I look at their protocol, I'm like, these people are fucking idiots. Oh yeah, we gotta stop this thing from spreading. We gotta stop the natural course from taking place. And when 10,000 chickens have died, we gotta kill 6 million of them. No. Why don't you let the virus run its course and find those ones that have a fucking higher natural resistance to the virus and fucking breed them, or maybe study them. Maybe you can study their blood and then use their blood plasma as a treatment for those other birds. You don't even need like a crazy vaccine. Use their fucking blood plasma. Or, once again, just fucking breed those chickens that have a natural resistance. But the government doesn't fucking want that. Okay, because then it makes them pointless. They're like, oh no, if there are people who believe in God and the natural order of things and believe that we shouldn't play God, then that takes away from the government's power. And that makes people think, hey, maybe the government's actually doing a great deal of overreach. And that's exactly what's fucking happening. I don't know why people can't see this. Well, actually, I do. I'm sorry. That's right. Half a brain. Half a fucking brain. That's what I got to remind myself. So anyway, let's look at our next article. Ukraine planted explosives in Russian drone pilots' virtual reality goggles in operation out of a Mossad playbook. Okay, so we know Israel went and they did this crazy act of terrorism where they put explosives in beepers. I believe it was cell phones, and I believe maybe it was just beepers and cell phones, or maybe it was just the beepers. Then they blew up all those beepers. They fucking injured and probably killed a bunch of civilians. There was a whole bunch of fucking collateral damage with that. Now, Ukraine decided to do the same thing. And of course, they can get away with it because, you know, they're under the West's protection. So the West is, you know, do what I say, not what I do. Those who are on our side can do what we do, and they don't have to listen to what we say. But everybody else has to do what we say, not what we do. Okay, and this is exactly what's going on here. Was this reported on widely? No, of course not. Because then Ukraine looks like the bunch of terrorists that they actually are. And it's like, what happened if, like, one of these virtual reality goggles ended up in a civilian's, on a civilian's face? How can you guarantee that all these goggles are going to end up in a Russian military member's, or military drone pilot's hands? This is ridiculous. And ridiculous, of course, is deserving of ridicule. So scientists discover a mysterious form of energy in Egypt's pyramid that could only exist in modern times. This shit is hilarious. This is one of the dumbest articles I've ever read in my entire life. So they claim that they find a mysterious form of energy in Egypt's pyramids that should only exist in modern times. Guess what? They didn't find any fucking energy in Egypt's pyramids. What they actually did was they bombarded the pyramids with energy, and then when the pyramids, they noticed that when they bombarded the pyramids with these with this radiation, I forget exactly what type of radiation, they noticed that it collected in like the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and like some other chamber, and then they were like, "Oh, this must mean that the pyramid was used as like a power plant." And then they come up with this fucking ridiculous, I mean, you gotta find this article. I don't want to read this whole article. Find this article and read it so you can have the laugh of your fucking life. It is absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah, electromagnetic waves. Yeah, so then they claim that like, oh yeah, that they poured some, where is it? Okay, so anyway, the results revealed that the internal structure of the pyramid, including its three chambers, can gather and focus electromagnetic energy received from these waves. In their theoretical models, when the waves at these specific frequencies interacted with the pyramid, they excited what scientists call multipole resonance. It's very fucking simple, people. It's a big structure of rocks. When you have hollow points inside, of course, you're going to have energy gathering there and resonating there. It's so fucking dumb. I mean, these people are so dumb. But anyway, they go on to claim that they talk about this idiot that was on the Joe Rogan experience. Of course, Joe Rogan has all these... Whoopsie, sorry, I lost my microphone. So of course, Joe Rogan has all these shills on his show. All right, so this particular shill claims that the Queen's Chamber was a reaction chamber where the hydrogen was produced, right? Okay, let me go back up to... Okay, yeah, so this fucking idiot, man, he claims... Where's it at? I gotta find... Interesting. So Dunn theorized that they would... Okay, here we go. All right, so this idiot that was on the this shill's podcast over here, spreading fucking counterintelligence to all the people that watch that bullshit. This is what he said. So Dunn theorized that they would have used two separate chemicals poured down the shaft into the Queen's Chamber, which mix and then boil off. I don't know how they're fucking boiling off because it's not hot inside of the pyramids. It's actually nice and cool, triggering the energy resonance. As for what those chemicals would have been and how the ancient Egyptians would have known how to do all this is still unclear. Yeah, so this idiot on the Joe Rogan show was claiming, oh yeah, they dumped some chemicals down into the Queen's Chamber, and then hydrogen would boil off and then create an energy production inside the pyramid. I mean, the dumbest fucking shit you've ever heard. Only people with half a brain could believe this. And unfortunately... at least 75% of our population has a half a brain. All right, so husband watches in horror as rampaging hippo kills wife on African safari tour. This is fucking... This guy earned the Darwin Award, or this guy's wife earned the Darwin Award to like the highest degree, right? So he's suing this safari now, right? He's claiming that the safari did not tell them how dangerous hippos can be. Look at this fucking motherfucker. You live 70 fucking years, and you decide to go on a safari to Africa, and you know fucking nothing about the animals there? You know nothing about how fucking dangerous a hippopotamus can be? These animals are insanely dangerous. These fucking idiots walk up to water where hippos were at. And they're suing the tour, claiming, oh, the tour is at fault. They didn't let us know how dangerous hippos were. They were encouraging us to approach the water place. The guy who had the gun wasn't around. And you guys didn't react to all this? You think I'm going to go on an African safari, let some idiot fucking peer pressure me into approaching water that's filled with hippos, and then also be out on the safari with nobody that has a fucking gun? Oh yeah, our dude with the rifle, he's not around. Oh, this sounds like a perfect time to go out on the fucking safari. Let's take a walk around these wild, dangerous animals. Half a fucking brain, I'm telling you. Half a brain. I mean, you can almost see it in her eyes. Look at this fucking double-digit IQ stare. That's what I call it. Double-digit IQ stare. The double-digit glance. Idiots. You gotta be kidding me, man. How fucking dumb can you be? I mean, well, I guess you got millions of people buying into the Trump delusion, so I guess there are worse things, right? So, this is really interesting. Letter from Sir Isaac Newton in 1704 predicts when the world will end. It actually does not predict when the world will end, but it turns out that in 1704, Isaac Newton was sick and tired of people claiming that the world was going to end. Right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, the world's going to end, I mean, they've been saying the world's going to end, and that the apocalypse is here for every fucking generation since even Isaac Newton was around in 1704. So this guy got sick and tired of it, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to fucking try to, like, shut these people up. So he did, like, some work. He claimed that the Catholic Church was actually, like, the fall from real Christianity, and then what he does is he does a calculation, and he's like, so the times and a half, the times are 42 months, or 1,260 days, or 3 years and a half, right? So anyway, he does this calculation where he's looking at the fucking, some shit that was said in the Bible or was said by some jerk off, and then he calculated, he was like, okay, the days actually means the years, and when you actually put the days to the years, and when I think it was like around 800, he believes is when like real Christianity fell. Oh, actually, I'll just read this. And the days of short-lived beast being put for the years of lived kingdoms, the period of 1260 days, if dated from the complete conquest of the three kings, 800, will end. So essentially, he just fucking extrapolated some numbers. He looked at some dates, and he was like, yeah, the world is not going to end until at least 2060. But he wasn't saying that the world will end in 2060. He was just saying, like, anybody who's saying the world is going to end before 2060 is full of shit. And he basically just put this out there to shut people up. And it's actually really interesting. I really like this idea. That does not mean the world is going to end in 2060. He was just like, yeah, anybody that's saying that's going to end before this is just full of shit. And it's got to be at least some point after 2060. So I guess somebody else has to come in around 2060 and then do what he did again and be like, no, it's not going to fucking, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to end until like fucking 5020 or whatever. You know, just to shut people up so that they don't go back to saying that the world's going to end every fucking generation. Anyway, really interesting article here. This is one that I really find interesting that like very few people are talking about. So you have this battery storage facility in, I believe, California. Where's it at? Moss County. Oh, yeah, it's California. Moss Landing, California, right? So a couple months ago, you had this fucking fire in California. It caused the fucking, according to the locals, it caused health problems. But the EPA, of course, in all their glory, were like, no, it's perfectly safe. Now, remember, they did this exact same thing after 9/11. After 9/11, the head of the EPA was like, oh, no, the air is safe to breathe. And then what happened? It wasn't fucking safe to breathe. Of course it wasn't safe to breathe. You have fucking asbestos in the air. You have the fucking nanothermite fucking basically turning the steel into fucking gas. It was fucking like literally heating up the steel past the white hot point into its fucking gaseous state. Okay, so you had fucking vaporized steel in the air over there. That's actually what really fucking happened. And of course, nobody wants to talk about that because, of course, jet fuel might be able to weaken a steel structure slightly, according to their narrative at least. Jet fuel might be able to weaken a steel structure, but it's not going to fucking turn steel to gas. Okay, and I've showed that in my other videos. If you find my video, I believe it's titled, "What the hell is this?" You'll see an arrow pointing at one of the towers. I have found direct evidence, direct video and visual evidence that the building was turning into, well, parts of the building were turning into white hot steel and then turning to gas, smoking off, okay? And a huge portion of the fucking building, too. If you haven't seen that video, you gotta check it out. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, yeah, that's right. So, Moss Landing fire. This happened like a couple months ago. You had this fire out there, and then guess what? It actually ended up reigniting recently. Now, of course, the EPA is like, oh no, all of our sensors are saying everything's okay, but there's still a class action lawsuit against this company because, of course, there were health complications afterwards that the government does not want to acknowledge, because then this puts a hole in their fucking battery agenda, into their battery tyranny. No, we got to get all these Americans into battery electric cars so we can better surveil them, better control them, better restrict their movement. That's what they fucking want. Anyway, let's move on. Oh yeah, this is brilliant. Hertz loses billions on Teslas. Well, we're talking about batteries over here. Hertz sells off 30,000 EVs, but still faces $2.9 billion loss in 2024. So this is why, like, Tesla is actually worth anything, is because you have all of these ridiculous companies buying a bunch of Teslas. I'm sure that they were instructed to do so by the government. Oh yeah, do this and we'll give you a tax break. Will it be a $3 billion tax break? Because that's how much we're going to fucking lose here. Anyway, let's move on. While we're looking at this, let's take a look at the U.S. debt clock. Okay, this shit is still ticking up. People are like, yeah, Trump is cutting spending. If that was the case, this clock should be going backwards. Okay, we got a Dodge clock. They've managed to save $125 billion, or at least uncover $125 billion in fraud. But look, this shit is still skyrocketing. These numbers are still going up. U.S. federal spending, still going up. $7 trillion. Okay? What's our interest on our debt? Our interest on our debt is now greater than our defense spending. It's almost as much as our Social Security spending and our Medicare. $1 trillion, over $1 trillion on just our interest payment alone. $1 trillion to just continue to carry this debt. Guys, it's not sustainable. And Trump talking about giving everybody money. It's like, yeah, but we're going to take what we saved here. We're going to take this and we're going to give it back to you guys. So we're actually not doing anything. We're just buying you guys' apathy. Buying your guys' inaction. Don't do anything because we're giving you guys money, right? Let's move on. Our next article here, what is this one titled? Yale scientists who risk careers to publish bombshell COVID vaccine study issues message to shots victims. So this is the scientist who published this study. They're just basically saying, the scientist is saying that they need to do another study with a larger base, with a larger data set, and but they need funding for that. Are they going to get the funding? I don't know. I hope so, but I really doubt it. What do we have here? 43-year-old mother, Montana, that she can't really trust the public health institutions anymore after her COVID vaccine. Of course. Why would you trust the public health institutions? All of them are corrupt. They're all pieces of shit. I think I've only met like 2 doctors in my entire life that weren't total fucking pieces of shit. And who knows, maybe they were, I just didn't spend enough time with them. But damn, most of the fucking doctors, I have a hospital right by me. For those who are long-term subscribers, you probably know, because during COVID, I made a video blasting them for leaving their mask and their gloves and all their PPE equipment all over the fucking hospital. It's like these people would get off of work and then just throw their gloves and their mask on the sidewalk. And I made a video recording all that shit and exposing it, and then they cleaned up the hospital. But I had this hospital by me, and man, these people are scumbags. Total scumbags, like 99% of them. They park the ambulances all over the fucking place. They take up the bus stop. People can't, like, the buses can't get into the bus stop. Crazy traffic. Total scumbags. I have a nice thing for them. Anyway, let's move on to our next article. I want to talk about this article. I don't want to talk anything about this article. I'm only pulling up this article here because of this hat here, right? Now, in my last video, I had commented about the new press secretary. Everybody was praising the new press secretary. But then I had commented on the fact that she referred to U.S. aid as USAID. Right? I commented on that and I was like, wow, man, what an idiot. Everybody knows that U.S. aid is not called USAID. It's called fucking U.S. aid. However, since then, every motherfucker is now calling U.S. aid USAID. And I think that they're doing this to get rid of this aid idea, to get rid of this idea that the United States is aiding people. So they just call it USAID. But I found this picture in this article, and I loved it because the hat here clearly shows that it's supposed to be U.S. aid. It's not USAID, it's U.S. motherfucking aid. And all these fucking jackasses are now just mispronouncing it because this other fucking jackass mispronounced it, and now they all have to be jackasses. And now that perfectly segues into this video right here. I had a friend who sent me this shit, and I couldn't fucking believe it. So the other week, we all know Elon Musk did this fucking obvious Nazi salute. And all these idiots were like, no, that wasn't a Nazi salute, man. He's just saying, I give my heart out to all of you. Even though it clearly wasn't that. So now the other fucking sheep, the other half-brained sheep, are doing the same thing. Check this shit out. Unfucking believable. Let's just double down on stupid, right? And this is what they do, though. This is even how the media works. This is how everything works. You know, double down. And if you double down, then other people will start thinking that, oh, no, this is normal. Let's normalize it. You know, doubling down will normalize it. And then maybe people won't think anything else. Because, of course, they have half a brain, right? Of course not. Anyway, let's move on to, I believe we only got a couple more articles left here. What do we got here? Okay, this one is brilliant. Holy shit. This article just made me laugh. So a couple months ago, you had these teens who died in a Tesla truck, right? They died in a Tesla truck crash. It was horrible. Fucking the car, the Tesla truck, the Cybertruck, whatever you want to call it, crashed into a tree and then fucking just exploded into flames, right? Now they were like, oh no, it wasn't the battery though. Like the battery though didn't catch fire. And the first time I reported on this, I was like, okay, so what fucking caught fire? You're telling me these teens just had fucking gallons of gasoline in the fucking car? Right? So now, they concluded their investigation, and they're blaming the teenagers. Toxic cocktail of cocaine and booze led to teens' fiery death in Tesla crash in California. So it's not that this car is a complete safety hazard. It's not that this is a terrible design that's going to kill people. The doors are fucking electrically locked, so if something goes on with the car's electronics, you can get locked fucking inside, and that's exactly what happened with this car. After it caught fire, the people who came to try to rescue the people out, they couldn't open the doors. They ended up having to break one of the windows and pulling the only survivor out. Everybody else died a horrible death inside the car. However, I found something interesting out here. Is it in the comments? Let's see. Well, the school, high school, they didn't just start that night. Okay, yeah, every high school. Okay, here we go. The Cybertruck has 2 lithium batteries. There is the main battery and a second battery just in front of the passenger's compartment. It is the second battery that was damaged when the front right of the car hit the tree. The damage caused a thermal runaway and fierce fire. The survivor was pulled through a window because the door is powered, operated, and there is no manual door handles on the outside of the car. There are many head-on collisions with internal combustion cars that do not result in fire, even though the cars are severely damaged. Exactly. Okay, so this is what this article's not fucking telling you, and this is what they're not telling the public. That there's 2 fucking lithium death batteries in this thing, and yeah, the main battery probably didn't catch fire, but if you see, there's another fucking backup battery over here, exactly where the author said, the car crashed into this area, that's the battery that fucking burned them all to death. But oh no, let's not talk about that. Let's just blame cocaine and booze. Oh, well, cocaine and booze caused the car to fucking explode into an inferno? Let's get into this. I'm sorry, I get really upset about this stuff, and I know cursing doesn't really solve anything. And no, I don't talk like a sailor when I'm outside, right? So, anyway, police seek arrest warrant for Florida congressman over alleged assault. Now, this is really interesting. If you read this whole article, let's just read the subtitle. D.C. police asked prosecutors to charge Representative Corey, or I'm sorry, Republican. No, he's a Representative Corey Mills, Republican of Florida, with assault. Mills denies wrongdoing, and the alleged victim denies an assault occurred. This victim has half a brain, okay? So what happened was, this victim, who's like half the age of this fucking guy, she's like 27, he's 44, she's at his place, he obviously attacks her, obviously assaults her, she calls the cops, reports an assault, the cops show up, they see video, they see bruises on her arms, she was clearly assaulted, but then then she decides to backpedal, and she's like, oh, no, he didn't assault me. He didn't break my phone, even though I called and said he broke my phone and he assaulted me, and obviously I had visible bruises on me. She's like, oh no, those weren't bruises, that was eczema. It's insane. So essentially, I hope this victim ends up on a missing persons page, and of course we'll know who's responsible for that, and I hope he gets away scot-free with it, because that person has half a fucking brain and deserves a horrible fucking outcome from this. You're hanging around with a soulless demon. The soulless demon does his soulless demon thing to you, and then you go and you fucking try to protect him. You're a scumbag. This guy's obviously has more victims. He's obviously going to have more victims in the future, and you could have maybe did something to push back on that, but you decided to be a soulless demon yourself and then sell out. How much money did he give you? $50,000, $100,000? What did your soul cost? I'm sure it wasn't even that, right? It's probably like, I'm sure he could buy your soul for $10,000 because you got half a brain. Anyway, let's move on. This is something interesting. First, H5 bird flu death reported in the United States. I'm surprised that they didn't blow this up a lot more than they did. Let's move on. This is the last article. We saw the Israeli hostage kissing this guy. And that's it. We're at the end of our video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I covered a lot of content. But, I gotta do what I gotta do. Once again, as always, no matter how much shit is going on, do not let them turn your world into a hell. Even if, you're going through a lot of trouble, keep that spirit strong. Okay, stay optimistic, stay positive, stay healthy, stay happy, and of course, stay sharp. Our time stands in need of a new revelation. A revelation obtains whenever man comes into touch with a reality distinct from himself. It does not matter what this reality is made of, provided man feels it to be absolute reality, and not his idea, not presumptive or imaginary reality. Man needs a new revelation. For he will be lost in the arbitrary and boundless fancies of his mind if he is not able to contrast them with something truly and inescapably real. Reality is the only mentor and master of man. Without its inexorable and solemn presence, it is idle to hope for culture, civil welfare, or even, and that is the most dreadful, authenticity in personal life. When this reality, the one and only power that checks and disciplines man from within, vanishes because belief in it is lacking, the social domain falls prey to passion. The ensuing vacuum is filled by the gas of emotion. Everyone proclaims what best suits his interest, his whims, his intellectual manias. To escape the void and the perplexities of his own soul, a man will rush to join any party standard that is being carried through the streets. With society gone, there remain only parties.
I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brother.